With people start putting the jackets on the 4-4, I'll tell you next time. Right? Okay. Yep.
You want us all up here?
Yeah, I like to sit down here.
Beef, just stick that right there.
See where everyone's standing. Good afternoon. I'm Dave Coles. I'm the national president of the Communications, Energy, and Paperworkers Union. Beside me is the regional vice president from Quebec, executive vice president Michelle Ouimet, who will be presenting to you in français. Beside me is Jim Thompson from the Friends of Canadian Broadcasting. And on the far left is Peter Murdoch, our senior vice president responsible for the media sector. We are completing today the lobby of many MPs on Parliament Hill. Close to 80 MPs have been personally spoken to about the issue of foreign ownership in the telecommunications sector. We recognize that there is problems in the telecommunications sector in Canada and Quebec, but foreign ownership is certainly not the resolve. And we're urging Mr. Harper and his ministers, particularly Clement, to finally put to bed this notion that foreign ownership of the telecommunication industry is in the best interest of Canada. We, the Canadians, own the airwaves. Mr. Clement is suggesting that we auction those airwaves off potentially to foreign owners. That does not make any sense to most Canadians, and it certainly doesn't make any sense to the telecommunications industry and the issues that affect them. There is 10 homegrown Canadian corporations that will want to have access to those airwaves. And it is, in our view, inappropriate to suggest that we continue to sell off our resources, our airwaves, to foreign multinational corporations. The result of selling off to multinational corporations of our airwaves would result in a couple of serious problems for Canada. One is significant job loss, as the research and development and head office and a number of other jobs across the country would leave to the home of the parent company. But also, those who live in rural Canada, in rural Quebec, have a right to have the same cell phone service as if you live in a big community. And you cannot break up the airwaves, which they call the spectrum, into little chunks and give it away and expect a carrier to provide services right across the country. It's an expensive proposition to have cell phone service and telecommunication service in our big country, and it should be left to the Canadian corporations that we have. So just to repeat again, that our position is that they're Canadian airwaves and Canadian corporations have the right, and the law should not be changed. I'd like to introduce Michelle Ouimet.
Thank you, Dave. Bonjour, mon nom est Michel Ouimet, je suis le vice-président exécutif du CEP. Pour continuer dans la même veine sur la question de la propriété étrangère, nos arguments, sans être alarmistes, une fois que les restrictions seraient levées, il n'y aurait plus aucune barrière pour les compagnies étrangères en télécommunications puissantes et très riches, comme Verizon et AT&T aux États-Unis, Nippon Téléphone, Telefonica en Espagne, Deutsche Telekom en Allemagne, pour ne nommer que ceux-là, de venir ici au Canada et acheter Bell, Vidéotron, TELUS, Rogers et Shaw d'un seul coup et prendre possession du système complet des télécommunications au Canada. Ça comprend la défense nationale, les aéroports, les bourses, la banque, enfin tout ce qu'on peut imaginer de critique au Canada. Il s'agit ici de l'indépendance de la sécurité canadienne au niveau des communications. Un autre élément important, c'est que ces compagnies étrangères ne se préoccuperaient certainement pas au niveau du contenu de la culture canadienne et encore moins de la culture québécoise à cause de notre langue. Surtout avec la convergence des télécommunications et des médias d'aujourd'hui. L'intégration des technologies multimédia, autant radio, télé, médias écrits, qui maintenant, sur les téléphones cellulaires, convergent, qu'on peut dire, à pleine convergence. Il y a plusieurs compagnies de télécom maintenant, d'ailleurs, qui possèdent leur propre chaîne de télévision, comme par exemple Bell qui vient d'acheter CTV, Shaw avec Global, Vidéotron avec TVA et Rogers avec CTTV. Un autre élément qui nous inquiète énormément sur la question de la propriété étrangère, c'est déjà dans le monde des télécoms, nous devons syndicalement nous battre contre la sous-traitance outre-mer face à nos employeurs comme Bell, Téléglobe, SaskTel, Manitobatel, TELUS, Vidéotron, et imaginer les conséquences sur les emplois si ces compagnies seraient de propriété étrangère. Il y aurait d'importantes pertes d'emplois canadiennes au profit de création d'emplois outre-mer. Le meilleur exemple que je peux donner est Téléglobe, dont les professionnels et les employés de bureau sont syndiqués au CEP. Quand Téléglobe a été acheté par la compagnie Tata Telecom des Indes, ce qui est arrivé, c'est les maîtres de la culture indienne sont venus ici, sont venus chercher l'expertise, sont retournés en Inde et les conséquences qui se sont produites, 650 employés de Téléglobe, les employés ont été diminués à 250. Le prorata qu'on pourrait faire si des compagnies étrangères viendraient s'approprier des grosses entreprises comme Bell qui a 35 000 employés, si on regarde le prorata, vous voyez comme Dave Coase l'a mentionné tantôt, qu'il y aurait des milliers de pertes d'emplois. Notre position est claire. Nous, ce qu'on veut, c'est que le gouvernement conservateur ne touche pas à la loi sur les télécommunications. Je vous remercie.
Hi, my name is Jim Thompson. I'm speaking for Friends of Canadian Broadcasting. Friends is a nonpartisan broadcast watchdog group. We work for more and better Canadian content online and on the air, and we're supported by 100,000 Canadians. Friends' principal concern with the removal of foreign ownership restrictions in telecommunications relates to Canada's cultural sovereignty. Our concern starts with the unprecedented convergence between Canada's media and communications companies. Today, every major private broadcaster is, or soon will be, owned by a communication or distribution company. These companies have vast and integrated holdings. Take Rogers, for example. Rogers' business lines include cable television, local and long-distance telephone, internet access, wireless broadcasting, baseball, and publishing. And Rogers is by no means unique. Shaw operates in the cable and internet businesses. It owns CanWest. It's entering wireless. It's in the radio and specialty TV businesses through a related company. BCE controls Bell Canada, Bell Alliance, Bell TV, and will soon own CTV. Today, telcos own broadcasters and cable companies own telecom interests. In this integrated communications environment, it's not possible to gut foreign ownership laws for telecommunications companies without their direct competitors in the cable industry demanding equal treatment. Like falling dominoes, broadcasters would soon follow suit. We've been down this road before. When telecommunications ownership requirements were last scaled back in the 1990s, telcos and broadcasters successfully lobbied to raise the ceiling to permit more foreign ownership of Canadian media. Allowing foreign control of telecommunications in Canada would have negative consequences for Canadian cultural sovereignty because the company which owns the distribution network controls the programs on that network. Just imagine how different coverage of the Vancouver Olympic Games would have been if CTV were owned in New York. Tony Clement's decision to postpone changes to telecom foreign ownership is both welcome and understandable when you consider public opinion. From polling we have done in cooperation with the CEP and ACTRA, we know most Canadians think media and communications companies are too important to allow them to be sold off to the highest foreign bidder. Canadian broadcasting is a public good. It's essential to the communications infrastructure of local economies across the land. It's an important means for citizens to participate in the democratic process, and it contributes to building a distinct identity north of the 49th parallel. Allowing such an important instrument of Canada's national development to fall into foreign hands would signal the demise of our cultural sovereignty. When it comes to foreign ownership of Canadian media and communications companies, our message to Tony Clement and his colleagues is simple. Just do nothing. Peter.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you. I will be brief. As Vice President of Media, we deal a lot with issues around the media, and I am here to support, of course, the comments from my colleagues. It is quite clear that those who would argue that we can separate cultural content from the carriers of that content are wrong-headed. Those days have long gone, and your cell phone is everything from an encyclopedia to a television to the post office. There's no more separation. But I do want to make a comment about what is it that is prompting this move, or what prompted it, and we hope maybe it's buried forever, this move by the Harper government to look at foreign ownership in the telecommunications. There are three partners in foreign ownership. There would be your consumers, the industry, and government. And it's quite clear to us that the big winners in those three partners is big government. There has been some concerns put out there by consumers. Well, the easiest way to tackle those is, of course, through regulation. Yeah, you can regulation phone rates. We've done it before. We can do it again. There hasn't been a major call from industry for foreign ownership, and if we've seen big telecoms, as Jim and Michelle have pointed out, BCE and Rogers buy big media. There's lots of money out there. Our banking system is strong. But big government makes huge money from the sale of spectrum. Last time out, it made $4 billion. And essentially selling spectrum is selling air. Selling our spectrum. They made $4 billion. What happened to that $4 billion? We don't know. I certainly don't know. I haven't seen any reportage on what happened to that $4 billion. It's very easy money for the government to obtain, and yet there doesn't appear to be any accountability. The new spectrum sale would generate even more. And of course, for the government, who gets all this revenue, as the auctioneers and as the owners of what they're auctioning off, they want more bidders. That's all it is. They want bidders with fat wallets, and some of those fat wallets they expect might come from foreign countries. But that's got nothing to do with the imperatives or the need that consumers have, or indeed that this industry have. Canadians can look after our own industry. We can look after our consumers through regulation, and we should not allow this money grab from the Harper government to move ahead. We're happy that Mr. Clement has put this off. We'd say now, just don't raise it again. There's absolutely no reason for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. We have a few minutes for questions, if there is any.
Over the summer, when Tony Clement was consulting on foreign ownership in the telecom sector, it was pretty widely accepted that he, or people widely believed that he was going to produce a bill this fall, and then this week the announcement didn't have a bill. Just wondering if you have any theory or knowledge as to why there wasn't anything released.
Well, we certainly don't have any inside knowledge. They don't regularly speak to us. But our own political radar in our organization and many others is that they are still reeling from the whole issue of foreign ownership around potash, the issue around the mining strikes and disputes and the promises of foreign corporations. This is a hot potato. It is not about supplying cheap cell phone rates